Okay, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us on our second complimentary session from a long list of sessions that we're planning to have for all of you. And this session is on the listening section. So before I start, I wanted to talk about last week, Saturday, when we had our reading session. And unfortunately, many people weren't able to join us, people who registered. Zoom was having some technical difficulties, especially with the password. And we apologize for this. We sincerely apologize for this. And this session, we contacted their customer service, and we made sure that this sort of issue will not happen again. So we have 22 participants right now. I was thinking to wait a few minutes before we get started because I have so many good things for you guys today. And why don't I take some questions? So I see I have one question. Oh, is anyone in air? Yes. So we're here. Marjan, is it? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So yes, we're here, and we're ready to go. It's just okay. So the we have 23 now. So we'll just wait a few minutes. Okay. Hello, Marjan. Thank you very much for your question. And for those of you who can't see Marjan's question, Marjan is asking, will new reading sessions be done soon? Yes, yes, we have many reading sessions coming up, and they're actually focused reading sessions. So they're going to be on the different parts of the reading section, whether we're going to divide it up by passage and by question type. So yes, to answer your question, we will definitely have more reading sessions coming up. Okay, so let's see here. It's 11:06. So I'm going to start now. And if you guys have any questions, just I guess write them down in the Q&A part, and I will I'll answer them as the session progresses. Okay. All right. So let's start. So what is the um So, just a little background about us. So, IELTS Horizon. We've been doing this for 8 years, specifically from 2012, and we've trained over right now close to 6,000 clients for both so academic, university, and immigration purposes. So those individuals who are applying for immigration to go to Canada or Australia or the United Kingdom. And we don't only work with students, so we work with governments, with companies, and yeah. So in other words, we know our stuff. Me personally, I was an IELTS test center administrator, and I was an examiner for many years. And so I know the ins and outs of the test, from the administration part to the question design to the actual taking the test. So basically, what we're trying to do, um, our mission, as you can call it, it's basically to maximize you guys' familiarity with the skills required to obtain a satisfactory score, so the score that you want on the IELTS test. And of course, we would like to build a relationship with you. So it's not just about you coming to take classes or to come, attending these sessions, but we would love to continue to support and deliver the best training and practice in order for you guys to succeed. Because when you guys succeed, it means that we're doing our jobs properly. So, just a little overview about the test itself. And I'm gonna give you little details of information here that it's it that you won't really find on the internet. Maybe you will find it, but it's usually the information that we'd like to share with you is sort of exclusive to industry or IELTS insiders. So there are four sections on the test. So you begin, the first section is listening, which we'll be covering today. 40 questions, and then and basically you have 30 minutes to answer the questions, and then they give you 10 minutes to transfer your answers from the question sheet to the answer sheet, where you're expected to use pencil. Reading, which we covered last week, and we will cover in the future. 40 questions, three sections. You have 60 minutes. Writing, which we will also be covering soon. You have two prompts, or two questions, and you have an hour to answer each. So task one, 150 words. Task two, 250 words. And whether you're doing academic or general, so the academic section one, they'll give you sort of a graph or a chart, and you're expected to explain it. In the general section, they ask you to write a letter to a friend or to a colleague or to your boss. And then section two is basically a small essay, 250 words. And finally, the speaking section. So we'll also be doing speaking in our future webinars with three sections, and it's usually between 12 to 22 minutes. So that's basically the IELTS test in a nutshell. So to go deeper into the listening section, as I mentioned before, it's the first section. So the test starts at Saturday, 9 a.m. all over the world. So whether you're in the UAE, whether you're in Brazil, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in Cambodia, it always starts Saturday at 9 a.m. all over the world. And the number of questions you have for the listening are 40. So you have 40 questions to answer. Time limit, 30 minutes, plus 10 minutes to transfer the answers. And then you have four sections. So each section is actually 10 questions. And I put in here a variety of accents because I wanted this to sort of to make a mental note or an actual note to remind me to talk about this. A lot of people have been asked, so what are the accents that are covered on the listening test? So because IELTS stands for International English Language Testing System, so it's international, you'll hear a variety of accents from the English-speaking countries. So the US, Canada, the United Kingdom, so the UK, Australia, New Zealand. So you'll hear all these types of accents where you need to familiarize yourself with these accents. So my advice for you is, go on the internet, go on YouTube, just keep on watching movies with where with different accents. So whether it's if you want to listen to the British accent, you can watch like a James Bond film, for as an example. You know what I mean? If you want to listen to the New Zealand accent, I don't know if you guys know the singer Lord. So she's a, I guess, a very successful singer. So she's from New Zealand. So don't listen to her music, but listen to her interviews. If you listen to her interviews, like on New Zealand Talk Radio, for example, or the New Zealand news channel, you'll hear that New Zealand accent. And believe me, you need a little bit, you need some time to get used to it. Because even me, when the first time I've ever listened to the New Zealand accent, it took me a while to get used to it, right? So things like that. Do whatever it takes to familiarize yourselves with the accents. Because remember, so this test, it does not it does not play kind with people who do not understand the different types of accents. So because not understanding the accent is not an excuse. You need to understand the accents, and I cannot stress this enough. All right, and so the question types on the listening test, we have matching, we have multiple choice, so ABC. We have short answers, so no more than one or two words, summary completion, diagram, and sentence. So a big portion of it is fill in the blanks. So fill in the blanks, short answers, multiple choice, and matching. So these are the main question types that are on the IELTS listening. And yes, spelling does count. So make sure when you answer the question, make sure that your spelling is correct. It is very, very, very important. And I'll talk about that more so on the next slide. So just to break down the sections for the listening section, you have section one is usually a general conversation. So you'll hear something like someone ordering a pizza, or someone calling to ask questions about a new product. So they're calling in a store, and they're speaking to the customer service representative. And usually section one, it's like a fill in the blanks, and you'll be expected to write things down like credit card information, address information, names of people, things like that. So make sure, whenever you're writing these things down, make sure that you get, again, the spelling correct. I cannot stress this enough. Spelling, spelling, spelling. And make sure that if it's a proper noun, make sure that you have the first letter capitalized, right? So if the answer is a city, for example, New York, right? Capital N, small e, W, capital Y, O, R, K, right? If you write New York without the capital N or Y, you will lose the points, right? So make sure that you remember these things. And as I said in the last session, feel free to capitalize everything. So caps lock on everything. So New York, all capitals, N-E-W space Y-O-R-K. That's perfectly acceptable. That's another sort of tip for there. Section two, you have a general infomercial / broadcast, where it's usually a like you'll be listening to a radio announcement or a radio commercial about some product, or about a hotel, or about a concert that's going to happen. And basically, as you're listening, you're going to be answering the questions. Section three, so remember, because the IELTS test, there's a general training and academic. The listening section and the speaking section are taken by all candidates. It doesn't matter what you're taking. Are you taking general training, or are you taking academic? The listening and the speaking are exactly the same. It's the writing and the reading that differs. And as you can see, the first two sections are general, and then the second two sections are sort of academic in nature. And most people don't sort of realize this. So this is a good thing to know. So, section two, general infomercial or broadcast. It could be like a radio message, a public service announcement about a place. And again, you're expected to listen and answer the questions. Section three, it's a conversation in an academic sort of situation where it can be you're listening to two students talk about a project. You're listening to let's say an academic advisor and a student talking about things. And the interesting thing is the academic advisor can be using a British accent, and then the student can be using an American accent. So they mix and match. And then finally, section four is basically a straight up lecture where there isn't a conversation happening, but it's just one person talking, like you're sitting in a classroom and you're listening to the teacher speak or the professor speak. Or like in this situation, you're listening to me right now speaking about this, right? So section four is usually a lecture. So I would think it would be something like about an academic topic. So, for example, you're in class and like biology, and they're talking about, for example, the I don't know here off the top of my head. Oh, the digestive system, right? So they're talking about the human digestive system. So right, you have your esophagus, and then your stomach, and then your large intestine and your small intestine, right? So something like that, where you're expected to be listening a lecture on this, and then you're going to be answering the questions. So if you notice, section one and section three, they're usually conversations. So you're going to be listening to two people talk, while section two and section four, you're listening to one person talk. And there's difference in there. So remember, when a conversation happens, there are pieces of information flying around, and then one person will say something, and then maybe the other person will ask more questions or will complete the information. While when you're listening to only one person talk, this person is projecting, this person is talking to a mass audience, right? So think of it as like a monologue, a dialogue where you have two people speaking, and then a monologue where it's one person speaking. And of course, they're not speaking to themselves; they're speaking to, assumingly, like different people. So, some tips for you and some sort of general information. So the answers are sequenced again. So if you question one, there's the answer is usually in the beginning, question two is right after it, questions three is right after it. So it's good for you to know this so you don't get confused. Another tip, what I like to do is, so in the beginning, before you start listening to the conversation or to the lecture, in each section, they give you time. So they'll say you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5 on page 7 or on page 2, for example. So take that time, read the questions and see, okay, what is expected here? What is the missing word? Is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it an adjective? Am I looking for a number? Is it an address? Right? So all these things, it's good to make sort of mental notes for all these things. Third, check how many words are needed, right? So if it says write no more than 2 words and or a number, so remember, you can write 1 word, 2 words, but if you think the answer is 3 words, then you're incorrect. So use those sort of as a guide. And finally, words must grammatically complete the sentence. So check the grammar. Is it correct? Is it not correct? Should I put in an apostrophe S? So for example, Ahmad's or Alex's space, right? So could it be car, a cars, house, houses, right? So make sure that you know what to expect or what makes grammatically the most sense. Because if you don't, then if it's grammatically incorrect, you will not get the points. And contrary to popular belief, there are no such things as half a point or partial credit on when they grade the IELTS listening or reading. There's no partial credit, right? It's either right or wrong. And I took the liberty here of putting a this is the scoring and based on the bands that you're interested in. So remember, there are 40 questions. So if you get 40 out of 40, you get a 9. Wow, congratulations, good for you. But also a 39, if you get a 39 out of 40, you also get a 9. For those of you who are aiming to get a 6 or a 6.5, so to get a 6, you need 23 to 25 points or questions correct. What this means is if you answer section 1, 10 questions, all correct, section 2, 10 questions, all correct, and then in the section 3 and section 4, you only answer 3 or 4 questions correct, you'll get the 6. That's how it works. So, but again, you can never know what is correct, what is not correct. So my advice for you is try to, get everything properly. And then that strategy is like for the reading session, but we'll talk about that later. But nonetheless, this graphic here, this chart, is an excellent sort of way to know exactly how many questions you need to get correct. Whether it's we need to get a 7, so then that's 30 to 31. 30 to 31 is you need to get sections 1, sections 2, and section 3 all correct. Or maybe section 2, section 3, and section 4 all correct, right? So it doesn't matter how you play with it. If you need a 7, you need to get 30 to 31 correct. If you need a 6, it's 23 to 25. And then a 6.5 is from 26 to 29. So 99% of the candidates that I have personally dealt with, sort of aim between a 6 and a 7, 6, 6.5, or 7. Not, I mean, there are other people who aim for higher. So I've seen other people who want to get a 7.5, but I haven't seen of any organization, whether it's like a government or a university, an academic institution, that asks for more than a 7.5. I've never seen that. That would be very strange to ask. You need a minimum of 8, for example, because even in the U.S., so higher education institutions, usually if you're a graduate student, you need like a 7 or above. But that's another conversation for another time. It's very good that you get to know this. So another tip that I did not include on here. People think that, oh, I'm going to practice for the listening test. I'm going to do as many exams as possible. I'm going to go on the internet and I'm going to find practice tests and I'm going to do them. That's good, but that's not enough. So it's good that doing many tests, it will familiarize you with the structure of the test, with the makeup of the test. However, your listening will not improve, right? Remember, this test, it's not a subject-based test. It's not like I'm going to give you a book and I'm going to tell you, okay, your test is from chapters 1 to chapter 5, and you go home and you study real hard and then you come do the test, right? This is a test of your your overall English level, right? So in order for you to do this, it's not a test on how well you know the IELTS test. It's a test on your general English language skills. And what you need to do to improve your listening is to watch movies. You know what I mean? I'm sure many of us have Netflix accounts. And right now with the whole coronavirus pandemic, we're basically stuck at home. I know I am anyway. So this is a very good opportunity for you. Watch Netflix, watch movies, listen to music, listen to songs, listen to people, practice, right? The more you listen, the better you become at absorbing information. Because remember, listening and hearing are two different things. Hearing is basically it's the mechanism your body uses to absorb sound, right? So it's usually you can't control what you hear, what you're hearing. You're walking, and then you hear footsteps, you hear cars, you hear all these things. However, listening it takes an extra step. So it's hearing in addition to you taking and analyzing the information in your head, right? So when you're listening, you're actively listening, you're taking in information and you're analyzing it and you're making sense of it. And you're going to see, okay, what use can I do this for this? What can I do with this information? Right? So that's another thing. So please, 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 I implore you. A lot of people think that if, oh, I'm just going to go do practice tests, practice tests, practice tests. You can, but that's not going to get you very far, right? Always try to improve your listening. You can attend sessions like these. You can watch movies, just anything. Just music. Just keep listening. That's that's a tip. And also going back to the chart that I have here of the correct scores. This shows you that the difference between a 6 and a 6.5 is one grade, is one mistake, right? A 6.5 and a 7, it's one mistake. So please, 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 I always say, don't give the examiners or don't give the examiners the opportunity to mark you wrong, right? Because believe me, it hurts and it sucks, especially when you have so much writing on this. I mean, a lot of you want to do this test, not because it's fun, not because you're bored. No, but you do it because you have to do it, right? It's whether you're applying for immigration or you want to get in, or you want to go to school, or if you want to get. So some people will do it in order to get like a promotion in their job, right? So like to miss the 6.5 because I missed a word or I put in the wrong spelling, like I it's a pity, you know what I mean? So please make sure, don't give them the opportunity to mark you wrong. This is how it is. Now again, with me saying this, I'm not saying that these IELTS people are evil and they're dangerous and they want to purposefully fail you or not give you the score that you want. It's not that. It's done completely anonymous. They don't know who you are, and you will not know whom they are. However, it's their job to uphold the standards from the IELTS people, right? And it's up to you as a candidate, as a test taker, to make sure that your answers are correct, spelling, all these things, so you don't give them as much opportunities to lower your score. All right. So here, and I'll show you a little example. I put together sort of a test, a small test, just 5 questions with a listening. And after this, when we answer these questions together, I'll take some questions. Okay. All right. So let's start. Hopefully this will work. Okay.
Section 4.
Okay.
You will hear a lecture about the Great Wall of China. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 35.
Good. So this right now, he's telling us you have some time to look at questions 31 to 35. What I would do is just read the questions. So the Great Wall was built to ABC, the construction of the Great Wall, the Chinese name for the monument, the wall as it exists today was constructed mainly during the Ming Dynasty. The wall's main purpose was ABC. So I would sort of focus on the words over here in the
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 35.
All right.
Perhaps the most recognizable symbol of China and its long and vivid history, the Great Wall of China is...
Okay, so I'm stopping this right here. So did you listen to the woman's voice? Right? So this voice, you can tell which accent is this. She sounds American to me, American or Canadian. So it's not, she doesn't sound that she's from the United Kingdom or from Australia or New Zealand. So she sounds American. All right, so this is sort of good. Now, notice the questions are 31 to 35. What this means is that this is the which section is this? This is the 4th section, right? So this is basically the most difficult one. This is excuse me. This is like the most difficult one. This is the academic sort of lecture. So we're not listening to two people, we're listening to only one person speak. And again, as I go through these questions over here, what is the word that pops out? It's the Great Wall. So then always right over here, the Great Wall. So let's listen and see what happens and see what she says.
One of the most extensive construction projects ever completed. Somewhat ironically, though, the one monument that China built to keep foreigners out is actually now the biggest tourist attraction in.
So what did she say? She said the one monument that China built to keep the foreigners out. Right? So let's look at question 31A. Initially, the Great Wall was built to prevent invaders from entering China, function as a psychological barrier, show a country's enduring strength. So the answer is, so she said, it's to keep people out. So the answer is A. So let's put an A over here. Okay, let's continue.
The country. Despite the initial purpose, the Great Wall never effectively prevented invaders from entering China. It came to function more as a psychological barrier between Chinese civilization and the world, and remains a powerful symbol of the country's enduring strength. Though the beginning of the Great Wall of.
Okay, so let's forward this back a little bit because she mentioned all of those three. She said, here, let's go back, and I'm gonna stop it as she says these things. 1 second. Just so you know how
the one monument that China built to keep foreigners out is actually now the biggest
So she said the monument that China built to keep the foreigners out. Foreigners out. So you would think it prevents invaders from entering China. All right. So let's.
Tourist attraction in the country. Despite the initial purpose, the Great Wall never effectively prevented invaders from entering China. It came to function more as a psychological barrier between Chinese civilization and the world, and remains a powerful symbol of the country's enduring strength. Though the beginning of the Great Wall of China can be traced to the 3rd century.
Okay. So, what do you think the answer is? Prevent invaders from entering China, function as a psychological barrier, or show the country's enduring strength? Let's listen to it one more time.
Now the biggest tourist attraction in the country. Most extensive construction project. Perhaps the most recognizable symbol of China and its long and vivid history, the Great Wall of China is one of the most extensive construction projects ever completed. Somewhat ironically, though, the one monument that China built to keep foreigners out is actually now the biggest tourist attraction.
So this is what she's saying. She said initially the one monument that China built to keep people out, to keep foreigners out.
In the country. Despite the initial purpose, the Great Wall never effectively prevented invaders from entering China.
Section 4.
Oops.
You will hear a lecture about.
Sorry about that.
Perhaps the most recognizable symbol of China.
Okay, let's listen to it.
In its long and vivid history, the Great Wall of China is one of the most extensive construction projects ever completed. Somewhat ironically, though, the one monument that China built to keep foreigners out is actually now the biggest tourist attraction in the country. Despite the initial purpose, the Great Wall never effectively prevented invaders from.
Despite the initial purpose, the Great Wall never prevented invaders from entering China. So initially, the word over here, which means initially, so in the beginning, it was to keep people out. That was its purpose. So the answer is correct, A. However, they try to confuse you a little bit, and this is what they'll do. They'll say things like
entering China.
Okay.
It came to function more as a psychological barrier between Chinese civilization and the world. And
it came to function as a psychological barrier. So its function is a psychological barrier between, Chinese civilization and the world. However, the word here initially, so it's initially it was built to prevent invaders from entering China. This is why they built it, right? So the answer is A. All right, so let's continue.
It remains a powerful symbol of the country's enduring strength. Though the beginning of the Great Wall of China can be traced to the 3rd century BC, many of the fortifications included in the
So it said the Great Wall of China can be traced back to the 3rd century BC. So again, started, traced back. The answer is A, 3rd century BC. So 3rd century BC is it's the 3rd century. So 300 years BC means before Christ. So it's 300 years before the birth of Jesus Christ, which is because right now we're in 2020 AD, so it's after death. So it's been 2020 years since the death of Jesus Christ, and 3rd century BC means that it's 300 years before the birth of Jesus Christ. So that's a very, very long time. All right, let's continue.
Wall date from hundreds of years earlier, when China was divided into a number of individual kingdoms during the so-called Warring States period. Around 220 BC, Qin, the first emperor of a unified China, ordered that earlier fortifications between states be removed, and a number of existing walls along the northern border be joined into a single system that would extend for more than 10,000 li and protect China against attacks from the north. A li is about 1/3 of a mile, and that's where the monument's name came from. The original name for the Great Wall is Long Wall of 10,000 li.
So the Chinese name of the monument is the original name, which is the Long Wall. So it's not the Great Wall, the big wall, it's the Long Wall. So the answer is C.
Li, or simply the Long Wall. Though the wall is quite inspiring, it was never called the Great Wall in Chinese, and only foreign mistranslation with romantic overtones referred to it as Great or Big Wall. With the death of Qin and the fall of his dynasty, much of the Great Wall fell into disrepair. Much later, a series of frontier tribes seized control in northern China. The most powerful of these was the Northern Wei dynasty, which repaired and extended the existing wall in 390 AD to defend against attacks from other tribes.
So let's listen to
Tribes
this
seized
again.
control in northern China.
Let's listen one
The
second.
Chinese, and only foreign mistranslation with romantic overtones referred to it as Great or Big Wall. With the death of Qin and the fall of his dynasty, much of the Great Wall fell into disrepair. Much later, a series of frontier tribes seized control in northern China. The most powerful of these was the Northern Wei dynasty, which repaired and extended the existing.
Okay, so the most powerful of this was the Northern Wei dynasty that extended and repaired the wall. So it's an adjective, sorry, not an adjective, it's a synonym for constructed. So construct, repair, these are sort of synonyms of each other. So let's just listen to it one more time.
Much of the Great Wall fell into disrepair. Much later, a series of frontier tribes seized control in northern China. The most powerful of these was the Northern Wei dynasty, which repaired and extended the existing wall in 390 AD.
Okay, so the answer is for 34 is B, the Northern Wei dynasty. All right, now then let's continue.
To defend against attacks from other tribes. Despite its long history, the Great Wall of China as it exists today was constructed mainly during the mighty Ming Dynasty, from 1368 to 1644. Under the strong hand of the Ming rulers, Chinese culture flourished, and the period saw an immense amount of construction in addition to the Great Wall, including bridges, temples, and pagodas. In earlier centuries, the wall held little importance for the Mongols as a military fortification, and mostly served to protect caravans traveling along the profitable trade routes. But during the Ming Dynasty, the Great Wall was considered vital to the defense of the country.
So she said during the Ming Dynasty, the Great Wall served the purpose to defend the country. So the answer is C. Now then, if we were to go back and listen to this one more time, because remember, they try to confuse you. They put in all this information. We heard military fortification. We heard protect caravans traveling along the trade routes. Or the answer is C, to contribute to the defense of the country. So let's listen to it just one more time to see where we are.
Served to protect caravans traveling along the profitable trade routes.
Let's go
But
back.
during the Ming's amount of construction, in addition to the Great Wall, including bridges, temples, and pagodas, in earlier centuries, the wall held little importance for the Mongols as a military fortification, and mostly served to protect caravans traveling along the
So she said during the Mongols. So the Mongols are the, they're the warriors of the Mongolian Empire. So Kublai Khan and those people. So remember, but they're not talking about the Mongols. This is during the Ming Dynasty. So right over here, during the Ming Dynasty. So let's
profitable trade routes.
Okay.
But during the Ming Dynasty, the Great Wall was considered vital to the defense of the country.
During the Ming Dynasty, the walls was considered vital for what? To contribute to the defense of the country. So the answer is C. So this is basically sort of a short exercise. Wow, and I have so many questions. We have over 10 questions, and we'll get to them. Just however, before I start going into the questions, so remember, whenever you're listening to things like that, make sure to always, when you're reading the question, look at these words. So like initially, initially means from the beginning, right? The construction of the Great Wall started, the Chinese name of the monument is the wall as it exists today, right? So because they'll throw out this information at you. You'll hear, the thing is, unfortunately, many people will do this. The first thing they hear, oh, 3rd century BC, and they'll put an A. And it's, I mean, in this situation, it's correct, right? But in other situations, it may not be correct. Just like question 35, right? They mentioned military fortification. They mentioned to protect caravans traveling along the trade routes. And they mentioned to contribute to the defense of the country. However, all those things that were done, yes, the wall did serve those purposes. However, it served these purposes under different rulers. What we're talking about is the Ming Dynasty. So these are things to sort of look out for and try to sort of understand. All right, so let's get to your questions. Okay, let's see here. Anonymous attendee 1106. Actually, I have a problem with multiple choice and matching questions in listening. Okay, so for the future, we're going to be the sessions that we're going to have in the future will actually be we're going to be talking about multiple choice and matching questions. I apologize. Today we used sort of we didn't give too many sort of examples or questions. However, I promise you in the future we will have more opportunities to sort of practice for them. And today we did the multiple choice. I hope that today was sort of you got to know a little bit more about the multiple choice section, right? Although in listening, like as I said, there's no really formula to get the right, do you understand what I mean? Because with listening, you're listening at the same time and you're reading and you're trying to answer the questions. Like my advice for you in terms of multiple choice is to when you're reading the question, look at these small words that just like the examples that I did, right? You will hear all the answers in the question in the listening section. However, what you're expected to do is use the question as a guide. Use the questions as a guide. So when I hear the word initially, means like it's from the beginning, right? So that would be something like this. We wanted how to practice on them. Rose, you mean practice listening? So in terms of practicing, like I said, YouTube, Netflix, radio, just keep listening. You need to improve your overall listening. You can attend these sessions, and I'm sure with time you'll be able to, improve your listening. All right, anonymous attendee. The most of them come in sessions 2 and 3. So I'm not really sure when you say them, what are you referring to in sessions 2 and 3? So I mean, perhaps if you can send us like a direct question and with more information, and I'll be more than happy to answer this. Okay, so Batul at 8:15. Hello, Batul. Nice to meet you. Who can I know the spelling of people's names? You mean, okay, so I think what you say is, how can you know the spelling of the people's names? So how can I put this? Usually the question, usually the spellings that they won't give you ask you to spell people's names that are too difficult. So people's names that I've usually encountered questions like Mark, M-A-R-K, Jack, G-A-C-K. So, people's names, very, very common names like that. So, and believe me, that there's just no right or wrong way for you to spell. What you need to do is just increase your experience. This is the main thing. The more experienced you are in the English language, the more immersed you are, you'll be able to spell these names and you won't even have to think about it. So Jack, like from that song, I don't know if you remember Jack and Jill. So Jack and Jill went up the hill. Jack, G-A-C-K, Jill, J-I-L-L. But it's just an example. All right. So Rose, 1126, how to identify specific questions in the 4th section. Well, Rose, that's if you can, again, send us a direct message and just say, if you can give me more information, and I'll be more than happy to answer this question. So is listening the easiest section? Mohammed at 1129. So it's not the easiest. I mean, there's no such thing as the easiest or it's whatever you are. I mean, some people will say, oh, speaking is the easiest section because, people like to speak, and some people will say listening. There's really no easy or hard section. It's what you're prepared for and how you're able to do it. All right, and thank you for this question. So how answer is B? I don't understand the question to answer. Well, Redmi, if you can tell us which one is it, 31, 32, 33, 34, or 35, let us know. And 34, can it be the letter C? That's by Jerwidi. So let's see here. So it can be C, but remember, so they did mention the Ming Dynasty, but it was as it exists today, which means like right now, it was actually constructed by the Northern Wei Dynasty. That's the thing. All right. Anonymous AT&T, I am from Iran, and I am so glad to participate in your class. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to attend, and we're very happy to have you here. And as always, if you have any questions, please don't be shy to ask. And Huda, great session. Thank you very much, Huda. I appreciate it. We appreciate it here, and we appreciate you for coming. People's names are often pronounced and spelled. Well, thank you, Mohammed. Yes. So to go back to, let's see here. Batul, so who asked, how can I know the spelling of people's names? So Mohammed here has suggested that, you often pronounce them and you spell them. So as they're pronounced, they're spelt. So there's really no silent E or things like that. Do you know what I mean? So Mustafa, 1149, Mustafa Shamsi says, what is the best way to use the last 10 minutes? Mustafa, that is an excellent question, and thank you very much for joining us. And so the best way for you to use the last 10 minutes is when you transfer your questions, your answers, double check the spelling, double check the grammar, and double check whether you're capitalizing or not. So these would be a very good use of your 10 minutes when you transfer your answers. Because remember, a lot of them will be A, B, C, D, excuse me. Do you know what I mean? So you don't really have to capitalize those. I mean, you can if you want to. True, false. So if it's true, please make sure that you spell true correctly, True. If you spell true, Tru, it's incorrect. All right. So thank you, Mustafa, for your question, and thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. All right, Rose. So I have a crucial question. Is there common words for section 3 and 4? Should I memorize them before the exam? No, there are not. And a lot of people say memorize this. Believe me, it has nothing to do with memory. It's basically your experience with it, your immersion with it. So instead of taking the time to memorize, I know I understand where you're coming from, Rose. So listening, memorization, I would do for something like mathematics. You know what I mean? Where you need to memorize a formula, for example. However, you should be able to understand, because if you were to apply this formula incorrectly, then you're not going to get the grades, right? But however, don't memorize them. What I need you to do, what I'm telling everyone to do, is please, please, please just immerse yourself, increase your experience. This is all that it has to do with it. It has nothing to do with memory. It's just increasing your experience and immersing yourself within the English language. So anonymous attendee at 11:50, thank you so much for your information. Well, it's my pleasure, whoever you are, and thank you for joining us. Rose, my pleasure, Rose. And as always, if you have any questions, please you can directly email us, and please, you can attend these sessions. We're planning to have so many more sessions on all the different types, and we would love for everyone to be there. And actually, I was thinking of my partners and I. We were thinking of we'll be having just a question and answer session. So 1 hour, I'm going to be online, and you guys can ask me as many questions as you want. So we're thinking of doing that. All right, and Mona. Hello, Mona. Can you please give me the date of the next lecture? We haven't decided on this yet, but it's most likely it's going to be next Saturday. And next Saturday would be, let's see here. If I check my calendar. Okay, next Saturday will be the 18th. So more than likely the next lecture will be Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, the 18th. All right. Well, Batul, love the lesson. Thank you. Well, it was my pleasure, and we're very happy that you liked it. And please, you can ask us if you have any other questions, please feel free to send us a message. So is it okay? Nana asked, is it okay for the last choice they talked about is the right one? Is it okay? So Nana, I don't quite understand your question. Maybe if you send us a message with more information, I'll be more than happy to answer. Is the right choice. Okay. Or more details about the next lecture. So Mona, the next lecture, to be honest, we haven't decided what's it going to be on. We usually send out these surveys. We ask people, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want us to do? And we'll do it. So the more details, probably by tomorrow or Monday. Next Monday, we'll have more information for you about the next lecture. Okay. Adelio, thank you, sir, for coming. It is our pleasure to give you these tips, and we have many more tips to share with you. Adelio, do you already have the schedule for the next lessons? We'll be putting that up on our Instagram page. All right. Okay, so 11:53. Anonymous. Nana says the last choice they talked about is the right choice. Okay. Now I get what you're saying. Okay. Yes or no? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. So that's sort of by question or test by test basis. Okay, anonymous attendee, is it good to memorize the spelling of the common words before the exam? Yes. So again, spelling has nothing to do with memory. You can say, okay, when you study for a spelling test, you memorize how to write them, but it's the experience, right? The more you spell, the more you immerse yourself, the more sort of spelling knowledge you'll have. All right. So GON it's a great lesson. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming. We really appreciate that. So more reading from Marjan. Yes, we will definitely have more reading. I promise you. Thank you very much. And Windows, thanks for your class. Thank you for attending. And Jerwy D is asking, are you going to upload this in YouTube? That's a good question. We never thought of having a YouTube channel, but yeah, why not? I mean, that would be that's an excellent idea and an excellent suggestion. So thank you all very much. We really appreciate you coming and you attending, and we hope that you learned something today. And wherever you are, have a good day, have a good evening, or have a good night. And please stay tuned for more. And thank you for taking the time to join us. Thank you very much. And we'll see you guys later.